James sat in front of his laptop, staring at yet another rejection email. The subject line was always the same: "Thank you for applying," but he didn't even need to read the rest. He already knew what it said. 8 months. That's how long he had been searching for a job. At first, he was optimistic. He had a solid CV, years of experience, and a willingness to adapt. But as time went on, the applications piled up, and the responses became fewer. When they did come, they were all rejections. James leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. What was he doing wrong? It wasn't just him. His friends were struggling too. One had taken a barista job despite having a degree in engineering. Another had moved back in with his parents after being laid off. These weren't lazy people. These were hardworking, skilled professionals. So why did it feel impossible to find work? The vanishing opportunities. Scrolling through job boards, James noticed a trend. More freelance roles, less stability, no benefits. 0-hour contracts, no guarantee of work. AI-powered hiring. If your CV didn't have the perfect keywords, you never stood a chance. It wasn't just about finding a job anymore. It was about winning a battle against thousands of other applicants, all fighting for the same scraps. And the worst part? Salaries weren't even keeping up with rent and bills. Even if he landed a job, would it be enough to survive? The breaking point. James sighed and closed his laptop. Tomorrow he would try again. But deep down, a question haunted him. What if this wasn't temporary? What if the job market was changing for good? James woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing. He grabbed it from his nightstand, hoping for good news. Maybe a job interview, a follow-up email, something. Instead, it was his bank app. Low balance warning. He exhaled sharply, rubbing his face. Rent was due next week. After months of job searching, his savings had nearly dried up. He had cut every unnecessary expense. No takeaways, no subscriptions, no nights out. But even the essentials were getting harder to afford. Still, he forced himself out of bed, made a cup of instant coffee, and sat at his desk. Another day, another round of applications. But today felt different. The broken system. James logged into LinkedIn. New job postings, 3,500 plus. He clicked the first one. It had been up for less than an hour and already had 200 applicants. He sighed. How was anyone supposed to compete with that? Then, he spotted something worse. Unpaid internships being advertised as opportunities. Companies offering experience instead of wages. He had seen it before, but today it hit differently. People weren't just competing for jobs, they were competing to work for free. The whole system felt rigged. Desperation creeps in. James switched tabs, checking his email. One new message. "We regret to inform you." He slammed his laptop shut. That was rejection number 57. His chest felt tight. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't unqualified. But no one was hiring. He grabbed his coat and headed outside. He needed air. As he walked through town, he saw signs that once wouldn't have caught his eye. Hiring. Must have 5 years of experience for an entry-level role. Due to economic conditions, we are not currently hiring. Closing down. Final week on a local cafe he used to visit. James stopped outside a recruitment agency and looked at the listings in the window. Most were 0-hour contracts, work when needed jobs with no security. Others paid barely above minimum wage. For the first time, the thought crossed his mind. Maybe it's time to give up. But then, his phone rang. An unknown number. Could it be an interview? A callback? Heart pounding, James answered. "Hello?" The voice on the other end paused before speaking. "James, we need to talk. I think I found something, but it's not what you expect." The offer. James gripped his phone tighter. Finally, a lead. "Who's this?" he asked, heart pounding. "It's me, Aaron," the voice replied. James exhaled. Aaron had been one of his closest friends since university. They had both been hunting for jobs, sending out hundreds of applications, hitting the same walls. "I think I found something," Aaron continued. "It's different, but it pays." James straightened. "What kind of job?" Aaron hesitated. "Meet me in an hour. I'll explain everything." James checked his balance again. 42.6. If this was even remotely legitimate, he had no choice but to listen. A risky bet. They met at a small cafe, one of the few places in town still busy. James had only ordered a black coffee, not because he wanted it, but because sitting there without buying anything felt wrong. Aaron leaned in. "It's contract work, no salary, no benefits, but the pay is quick." James frowned. "Sounds sketchy." Aaron shook his head. It's not illegal. It's unconventional. He slid his phone across the table. On the screen was a job listing. Urgent openings, no experience required. High-paying, flexible hours. Remote or in-person work available. Must be adaptable and willing to learn. Serious applicants only. James raised an eyebrow. This is vague as hell. I know, Aaron said, but I looked into it. It's reselling. James blinked. You mean flipping stuff? Aaron nodded. People buy stock in bulk and sell it for a profit. Sneakers, electronics, even groceries. Some guys make thousands a month. James leaned back. This wasn't what he had in mind. He had spent years building a professional career, getting degrees, networking, applying for real jobs, and now his best option was flipping PlayStations and limited edition trainers. But then he thought about his empty fridge, his overdue rent, the pile of unpaid bills. What's the catch, he asked. Aaron hesitated. You need some starting cash, a couple hundred to get inventory. James clenched his jaw. Of course. Aaron must have noticed the look on his face. Look, I get it. This isn't what we planned. But jobs aren't coming back anytime soon. You can wait around for another rejection, or you can start making money now. James stared at the job listings on his phone. He had always seen himself in a different kind of career, but maybe it was time to stop waiting. Maybe it was time to do something, anything that actually paid. Taking a deep breath, he looked up. All right, he said. Show me how this works. A new reality. James sat at his kitchen table, his laptop open, a spreadsheet in front of him. Inventory, costs, profit margins. It had been 3 weeks since he took Aaron's offer seriously. 3 weeks since he stopped waiting for a real job and started making money on his own. At first, it felt like a gamble. He had scraped together £200 from what was left in his account, used it to buy a batch of discounted electronics, and flipped them online for a 40% profit. The second batch moved even faster. By the third week, he had doubled his money. It wasn't easy. It wasn't what he had planned. But for the first time in 8 months, money was actually coming in. A harsh lesson. One night, he sat scrolling through job listings again, almost out of habit. Despite everything, a part of him still wanted stability, a salary, a proper career. But as he looked at the low wages, the impossible experience requirements, the flood of applicants, he realized something. The job market wasn't broken. It had changed. And no one had warned him. Universities still pushed the same degrees. Career advisors still gave the same outdated advice. But the system that used to reward education, hard work and loyalty, it didn't exist anymore. That's why people like him, smart, qualified, hard-working people, were being left behind. The rules had changed, but no one had told them. The choice, a message popped up on his phone. Aaron, got a lead on a supplier, you in? James hesitated. Months ago, he would have scoffed at the idea of doing this full-time. But now, he looked at his bank balance, 2,015, the most money he had seen in months. Then he looked at his inbox, filled with rejection emails. There was no future in waiting, no success in playing by old rules that didn't work anymore. James took a deep breath and typed his reply. I'm in. As he hit send, he realized something. He hadn't found the job he was looking for, but he had found a way to survive. And in a world where stability was disappearing, maybe that was the only thing that really mattered.